Have you noticed your customers are more well-informed than ever before? And when they call you to ask you something, they know what they want, they know when they want it, and really they just want to know if you can do it for them. Over half of buyers are engaging with at least 5 pieces of content before engaging with you, the potential provider, with 72% of B2B buyers only engaging with personalized content. But time and time again, we speak to organizations, to businesses, to leadership who don't have a connected content plan, direction, or understanding really of what the purpose of content is. Often citing things like it's different in our industry, or my competition will see what we're doing, all for reasons not to create effective, impactful content that your buyers want to engage with. So as part of my mission to help overcome some of those barriers, I've invited on one of the world's leading authorities on content, digital marketing, and the evolution of content, Andy Crestodina, who kindly joins us all the way from Chicago, Illinois. We're just having a chat off air about my recent time there. What a lovely city that is. Andy, please do take some time to introduce yourself, your organization, who you help, and how you got here doing what it is that you do.
Of course. Well, Rob, thank you. I am the co-founder of a web development and website optimization company called Orbit Media, and we started in 2001. So I am also of that generation that began before this huge wave of this mega trend of content marketing. I started publishing on our site in 2007, and 3 or 4 years later, really jumped in and went deep into certain formats. I have a webinar I've done for 12 years. I wrote a book, which is a combination of some of my best articles. We run an annual conference every year. I have a very active LinkedIn presence. And I'm just one of those people who speaks at events and teaches anyone who's interested in how to create demand, awareness and demand, without advertising. Content marketing is the opposite of advertising. I've never bought an ad. I built a $8 million per year, 55-person company with $0 spent on advertising. And there's lots of people like me. It's not that unusual. When you get out there, you can meet all kinds of people who, I never made a cold call, never bought an ad. So yes, I love this topic. I'm excited, and thank you for the invite. And I'm happy to share all of my best advice in the time we have to teach people how to grow a business by simply sharing your best advice.
Brilliant. And thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And there's 2 words I just want to try and kick us off with to try and take us right back to the beginning and try and remove any doubt or hesitancy that might be in some of the audience and the viewers here today. One is content as a definition, but you mentioned as well publishing. Probably 2 words that business to business, B2B industries might discard to the marketing pool or to the outsourced pool. It's not the job of the sales team. It's not the job of a sales director or manager. What is content at its base level? How does it remove the need for advertising? And what's that word publishing you talk about?
Yes, there was the paradigm shift in digital was when brands realized that their website can be more than just a brochure. A website without a content program is a brochure. It's an online brochure sitting there waiting to be downloaded and viewed and by people who come to consider that business. And there really aren't that many reasons to visit this website or except to just look at their sales material. That's all it is. A website without content is just a pile of sales material. But in this era, suddenly it became very accessible and low cost and fast to add to this online brochure a magazine, an encyclopedia, a set of resources, a group of case studies, a program where you can share your best advice, how-to information or educational or thought leadership or strong opinion content or original research, and attract people earlier in their buying decision before they're even in the market. And it's not a great deal of out-of-pocket expense to do this, unlike advertising. There's a famous quote from Guy Kawasaki. He says, if you have more budget than brains, do advertising. If you have more brains than budget, do content marketing. I never had a budget. I had to grow this business from nothing without any investors or debt. So content is simply the act of attracting an audience that is earlier in their buying decision by publishing and promoting usually helpful, useful articles that assist them in their day. And it's a contest of generosity, and the brand that gives away the most helpful, useful advice wins the most visibility and loyalty and love and leads. I'm generating leads right now, probably while we speak, because I've been doing this long enough and hard enough, and there's lots of people like me. But at its base level, it's something like that.
And you mentioned there was almost a burning platform that you mentioned in your experience. I didn't have budget, so I had to think differently.
That's right.
What's the burning platform for big industries? I see insights, as I'm sure you do yourself. You probably research them yourself as well, where 90+% of a decision starts online. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to assume and understand the power of Google. If we just take a think about our own buying habits, what do? We go to our smartphone, open up our laptops or our computers, and do an online search. But I'm seeing organizations time and time again that just aren't getting it. Why are they against it? Why are they pushing against the tide or trying to stop the tide, in your experience?
Well, they may be successful, quite honestly. And I'm Generation X, so I remember the era when all of the information a buyer would need was held inside the brains of the sales rep. And to get in to make a buying decision, you had to talk to a rep or go to a meeting, or there's like phone and fax and face to face. Like, that was it. But it's all obviously changed a lot. And now all of us, if you go look at your last buying decision, you used the internet to get information. So brands that have been successful at advertising or cold calling may just be still in that mode and don't realize that by having an inbound strategy, that you would have an incremental lift. You could grow without hurting that current go to market. You could continue to do sales calls or advertising or whatever you're doing. But if you also do this, then there will be far greater visibility and durability, right? You don't have everything that you publish stays there. You can keep using it again and again. It can be discovered again and again. It can be repurposed and reused. I've written articles 10 years ago that still rank very high. But it all comes down to, Rob, in the end, we just have to think about our audience. What is the true story in the life of this future prospect? What do they need? Everyone in our audiences has information needs. Ask yourself, what is their information need? And where do they go to meet that information need? Is there a podcast they listen to? Maybe you can be part of that, or maybe you can launch your own. Are they active on LinkedIn? You can be part of their network and publish right there into their stream. Are they searching in Google? You could publish search optimized articles that rank and become visible when people look for this information. So it all comes down to that audience. And if you don't do it, someone else will. We're long past the era where you can keep secrets. You cannot hold back and just pretend you're your audience for 3 minutes and go search for that information. You're going to find somebody else already published it. That could have been you. So I think one of the strongest ways to persuade people of the value of being a helpful, useful internet citizen and sharing your best advice is to just show them that others are already doing it. All the information's already out there. Someone's going to win it. Why not? Why let them have all the fun? That could be you.
It might as well be you, right? And I had a little smile to myself when you mentioned about people keeping the secrets. I mean, my colleague, we were doing a talk at an event, and he said, the secrets that you keep are the reasons people buy from you. Why are you keeping them secret? And it's such a confusing, I think you said, paradigm shift. And you said something there in your answer, Andy, that I just wanted to try and underline and catch, because you're not suggesting here that content replaces the salesperson. You're saying that content works alongside the salesperson, right? Because I see fear. So maybe just if you could just unpack that a bit, how content supports sales, not replaces it, that might help.
Oh, I'm glad you brought this up, because I think that the most valuable content that I have and that any brand has is the content that aligns with the sales questions. So set aside all of, ranking and search and social media and podcast, I mentioned podcast, whatever else. Forget about all that for a minute. And imagine that you just had a great sales call. Well, you talk to one person or two people. There are more than two decision makers at that company. There's a committee. Admit it, right? There's more than one decision maker. So how do you follow up? The best way to follow up after a sales call is to send them an article that goes deeper into the topic, right? A case study or a success story or a blog post. So let's say I meet a client who has, they currently are getting traction from search. they're worried about redesigning their website because they might lose their search rankings. Well, if I have a really detailed article that explains how to preserve search rankings through a website redesign, and I send that to them after the meeting, that content can improve my sales closing rate. But wait, Andy, what if they just go do it themselves? Seriously, they're not going to do it. They can't do it themselves. It's far, and they don't really want to do it themselves anyway. Even if they just scan the article and don't read the whole thing, they might just forward it to their boss, and now that everyone there has more confidence in my capabilities. So no, the key is to just be inside out, publish your own best practices, send them to anybody that you're talking. You can use it to open a conversation or to follow up after a conversation. And that person, and now you have more trust. Now you're different than your competitors. Now you have more credibility. Now your sales messages are more portable. People can forward that email around or that article around. So I'm so glad you mentioned this, because sales enablement content or sales marketing alignment, sales support materials as are by far, the farther down the funnel you go, the more valuable the content is. So highly recommend that. Do that first.
Yeah, and we see as well, again, I'd be keen to get your feedback around this, that sales professionals in a physical sense, the actual person, is waiting to show their skill in terms of objection handling. They're waiting to show their skill in terms of closing, in features and benefits, and showing you the catalog. They're desperate to put the catalog down in front of people. So there is a real threat, and I do understand it. I might sound a bit like I'm almost mocking the approach, and I'm really not. I understand the hesitancy. But wouldn't it be more helpful and make people more efficient and effective if we started answering through content, for example, common objections? And we wrote a glossary of common objections. When did you last hear a new objection, Andy?
Oh, we get objections all the time, right? And knowing the objections are the most important thing in sales, because, the main reason people don't buy it is not because they didn't, it was missing a positive. It's because it didn't address a negative. Objection handling is key. So we have to be doing that. And then to go beyond that, but you can handle the objection verbally in a meeting and then follow up with a piece that exceeds their expectations about your thoroughness and in your approach in handling that possible risk or difficulty. But then also raise objections that they didn't have. There's a fantastic book about sales called The Challenger Sale. It's very famous. When I read that, I'm like, this is all about content marketing. It doesn't mention the words content marketing, but it really is. That's what it's about. It's about producing materials that challenge their perspective and exceed their expectations about what you can do, because it's very competitive. There's a lot of different options. And how do you differentiate yourself? When they read that piece, they're not going to want to go do it. They're going to say, this guy's got me. This is a safer bet. I'm more confident in their approach. I can see they've demonstrated, vast amounts of expertise beyond what I thought they would, simply in these, this 3,000 word article. So write that one first. It's going to make it. It has far greater ROI than just another, typical blog post.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to speak to Brent Adamson, one of the authors of the Challenger Sale recently.
Good for you.
On a video conversation like this. It was, yeah, and it's fantastic how the people I speak to, they connect. It's a connected.
That's great.
It really is. And I think what Brent talks about, you're right. If you haven't read the book, it's superb. It's just a different way of doing it, isn't it? And I think one of the key takeaways from what he said in his work is lead to, don't lead with. And you have to lead to your business as a solution, not with it. And those listening, watching, look at your presentation deck. Does it say how experienced you are? How long you've been in business for, and the pedigree of your business? I don't want to see that. I want to see insights that I can't Google. And I think that's where salespeople could probably stay connected better through content in the sales process, is giving actual insight to a relevant person, not just a brochure of stuff.
I love that, Robin. And we're actually highlighting a really important topic, which is that sales and marketing aren't always well aligned. The marketing team might just be publishing, they might be just, active on a social network, and the executives and the salespeople are like, what are they doing over there? Or the marketing team might just be producing PowerPoint presentation slide decks for the sales meeting. But when the salespeople who are on the front line share with the marketing team exactly what the objections are. And the marketing team thinks for a minute about what content would best address that objection, and then writes the piece, shoots the video, right? Outlines the best practices, puts together the guide, whatever it might be. The format is secondary, but that topic is critical. That's the piece that grows revenue. And you make it once, you might use that for years. I have an article that shows these are the best practices in all my years of experience working with 1,000 clients. A B2B service page should have these elements: quick visual credibility, pictures of the team, answers to top questions, meaningful subheads, like it's like an infographic. People who see that know immediately that we know what we're talking about. You couldn't make that picture unless you had done this 1,000 times, right? I look different from my competitors when I shared that piece. I don't care if it ranked in search or if anyone shared it on social, because I'm sending it to my prospect. So Rob, I love this. This is a way better conversation than I often have. People often want to just ask me kind of the general questions or, how to get likes and comments. This is way more fun because it's bottom line.
Yeah, well, it is. And I think it's because my background's marketing. So I love this stuff. It comes naturally to me. And I think for salespeople who were experienced before the digital evolution, certainly before the social evolution, used to driving the miles, knocking on the doors, picking up the phones, they can't do that anymore because no one's in reception.
Nope.
They have to be more sustainable and green. And the numbers get through to the wrong person. so we've got to think slightly differently. And I just keep going back to the point of content has to be an asset for the salesperson to help them be more effective and efficient. But I do see, and I'd be really interested in your perspective on this, disproportionately small marketing teams to the size of the sales team. Is that what you're seeing? Because often, just let me help frame this a bit. There's a sales team of, say, 15 to 20 in a room. It's great. You're all understanding this, guys. You see where content sits at the top of the funnel. Absolutely. Who's going to do it? The marketing team's going to help us. Who's the marketing team? It's Janet. It's, oh, God. Do you see this too? Where there's such a need for fueling more relevant, specific content, there's a gap in resource to be able to do it. Is that something that you observe?
That's a big one. They're underfunded or they're overwhelmed. They're distracted. But in my experience, actually, a small team can drive big results. I've been doing this for a long time. So they say, don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. But we have 1.5 marketers here. It's half of my time and all of Amanda's time. And our content gets 10 to 15,000 views per day. We have 200,000 LinkedIn subscribers. I mean, if you do this long enough and hard enough, people try to advertise on our platform, which is absurd, right? That's not what we made it. Like, you can have a breathtaking amount of visibility in the long run if you get the flywheel going. But beyond resources, I think there's a strategy problem because Janet is distracted. She doesn't have time to focus on those key things that would make the biggest difference. So let's say your strategy is to prioritize the sales support content. Janet needs to find out what's in all those salespeople's sent mail folder. What questions are we getting, and what are our best answers to those questions? Now Janet can focus on a marketing strategy that prioritizes sales content. The articles, the helpful, useful. There's still articles, but helpful, useful, best practices content that addresses objections. Because if the smaller the team is, the more likely they are to be ineffective because some executives saying, what about this? And someone says, hey, can you do this design for me? And like, can you reformat this PowerPoint? Or hey, where's our logo? And they're just like this tiny, internal service person instead of doing strategic work that drives the bottom line.
Yeah, it's a challenge. You mentioned something in your previous answer that the format is secondary. I think that's such a good catch to underline. People focus on the output. It's like, or the platform. I've got this platform, I can shout at people. It's like, well, what are you shouting at them for? Why don't you help them and talk with them about the things that they know? So I think people try and shortcut that by just saying TikTok's here, or Clubhouse was here for a little bit, or LinkedIn obviously is growing still. People jump to platforms and they just think it's a silver bullet. I'd just like to I guess, take a step back to think if format is secondary I'm assuming a strategy is primary.
Mm-hmm.
What steps kind of sales team leadership take to start identifying a strategy so they don't just tear off and
Sure.
start posting
Sure,
things?
sure. Yeah. Well, every piece of content that's ever been produced or consumed has a topic and a format. And each of our audience, each member in our audience has information needs and format preferences. Some people like to listen to podcasts, some people watch videos, some people read articles. Those are preferences. But regardless, if you need an answer, you'll take it in whatever format you can find. Think first about your audience's needs, information needs, and you need to publish into those topics. And what format for those topics? Yeah, should you launch a webinar series? Maybe, right? That's so the format is absolutely secondary to the topic, I would say. Strategy, of course, strategy is a plan to reach a goal. So where I find that people fall down is where they don't clearly define and document their goals. And sometimes it's hard because some of the outcomes are uncertain in marketing. We produce content, we don't know certainly its attribution's difficult. We don't know which of these actions led to which outcome. That's perfectly normal. So sometimes the goal might just be to have a certain level of activity. Okay, we're going to publish 6 deep, insightful guides this year. They're going to roll out at this pace. They're going to be in these formats. They're going to be on these topics. We're going to use them in these ways. They're going to work into our sales flows in these stages. They're going to be sent to the people with these job titles. They're going to be used to do outreach and shared with net new people on LinkedIn, whatever the case. That's a plan to reach a goal. So marketing strategy is deeply lacking in many programs. I think it's often lacking because they just don't have clearly defined goals up front. But in the end, it all comes back to that zero moment of truth. Who are we trying to reach? What do they need in that moment? Where are they looking for that information? Who do they trust? Where are they spending time? We need to be active. We need to be there. We need to be part of that community or in that social stream or on that search results page. So yeah, I think that it's helpful sometimes. People, shouldn't say, well, yeah, we have a marketing strategy. It's a podcast. What? That's not a strategy. That's a format. So in the end, our audience, every member of our audience has information needs, therefore prioritize the topic, and format preferences. Yeah, think about all the different ways this could be published. And sometimes to publish it in multiple ways.
I think people do often confuse strategy with tactic, don't they? Because there are so many outputs. Yes, you have a podcast strategy, but how does it connect back to your sales process or your content plan? And I think more business to business organizations need to back in a content plan to their sales process, automate it where possible. You said something really interesting there, that our strategy might just to create 6 pieces in a year.
The goal, yeah, might be like that.
And I think hopefully that makes people listen. All we need to do is create 6 really insightful pieces to help us sell more stuff. That sounds infinitely possible.
It's especially with a bit of help.
Exactly.
But it's work. It's work. I mean, when done well, these pieces have to check a lot of boxes. I mean, ideally, they're highly visual. They're very in-depth. They're easy to share. They're in a format where you can track, like they're a web page. Maybe they're in an alternate format where it could be downloaded as a PDF or sent separately. You have influencers or subject matter experts collaborating with you. You've got contributor quotes from experts. Maybe you pull out some data from somewhere and you put some new original statistics into these pieces. There's high impact content is more than what people think. The world is not waiting for another medium quality blog post. Not worth it. Don't do it. Right. But yeah, if you could, over the next 2 months, analyze what are our key information needs and objections of our audience. Next question, what piece of content would build the most trust in our ability to handle that objection? Next question, what is the voice, the perspective, the format, the tone, the detail, the answers, next question, how do we roll that into our process? Share it with the right people at the right time. This is, I can't even imagine that failing. That's an automatic success because you'd be in the end sending it directly to your leads. You'd follow up meetings with it. You don't care if it has only 10 visitors. Those 10 visitors are your buyers. It's like it's zero waste marketing.
Mm.
It-
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it absolutely is. And I think people get drawn into the allure of huge numbers and vanity numbers and vanity
oh, yeah.
metrics. And they almost mistake content media for social media, or content marketing, sorry, for social media.
Yeah.
Oh, content is just all that Facebook thing, isn't it? Oh, no, come on. Let's take a step back. 6 pieces of effective, insightful content will stand you miles apart.
I have a YouTube video that was by far the most successful thing I've published on YouTube. It's from like 2 weeks ago. 130,000 views.
Mhm.
Wow. That's way more than that's like 100x my typical YouTube video. But I don't I have articles with very low traffic that I love much, much more because I use them to build trust with my prospect. I don't need 100,000 random strangers on YouTube. Like that doesn't really that doesn't change my business at all. But the right content, and if you do create 6 in a year, you can build a drip sequence,
Mm.
very easy, right? Low tech, that sends to cold leads, for example, or inactive proposals, for example. That is going to make you money. That's going to automate you keeping in touch with people. That's going to, warm up those old
Mm.
conversations. That content is worth way more than going viral. Some people like really, they think like, oh, if we could only create some viral content. Just imagine, what would that do for you? What do you think would happen if you had a piece of content that went viral? My best guess, nothing would happen. There wouldn't really be anything. Or to rank #1 for a random phrase. I rank #1 for all kinds of weird things, right? And they get visitors. How to improve your social media profile picture. Like 250,000 people have read that article.
Mm.
No business impact, right? It detracted links, which indirectly improves my search rankings, and I rank #1 for Chicago web design. It has other indirect benefits,
Yes. Yeah.
and I'm very good. Kind of marketers are very good at measuring indirect benefits. But I'm loving this conversation because we're prioritizing the sales support content, which is what makes
Yeah.
money.
Well, exactly. And you can't pay your mortgage on, I got a post that went viral. And
Nope.
the sales team out in the field, or that they won't thank you for creating a viral post. It won't mean anything to them because it didn't make the phone ring, it didn't generate an email, it didn't have a meaningful conversation from it. And I guess just on that purpose about how it connects to sales from an individual purpose, Andy, if you don't mind, how much of the content do you think the individual can and perhaps should own on their
Well,
day-to-day or strategic vision?
what's not obvious at first is that really everybody's producing content every day. Right now, right, or before or after they hear this conversation, every listener is going to go type something into their email. That is not that far away, right? You talking to your prospects,
Mm.
you answering people's questions, that's not that different from writing an article. People are surprised sometimes. They send me a question and I reply with a very detailed answer. Like, Andy, I thought you're busy, right? How do you have time to write? You just wrote 800 words in answer to my 2 simple questions. Yeah, because I'm going to repurpose that as an article. Ann Handley's book is called Everybody Writes.
Mm.
Marcus Sheridan's book is called They Ask, You Answer. Right? These books, the titles of them are revealing. That's the philosophy. So yeah, I mean, a single person, in theory, can be a strong individual performer and produce content that drives results. But when done together with a team, yeah, that individual, that rep who's responding, your sent mail folder is filled with fantastic topics and have written articles. Pull them out of there and get them onto your website, get them into articles, get them onto your homepage, wherever the visitor, wherever that question pops into that person's mind, you want to be there with your best answer because you're not in the room when they're seeing that or when they have that question the first time.
And it's adding your unique perspective, not the corporate vision, not the company opinion, your opinion. And that as a buyer is what I want to engage with more. Oh, this person's an authority in the position in the business they work in. They must know what they're talking about. They're publishing content, but we're keeping it secret in our sent box. So I think we should, yeah, as you say, bring that forward, right? And I think, again, I was fortunate enough to chat to Marcus Sheridan. His book's out. It's one of my favorite books, and I recommend everyone read that one. The premise is so simple.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely simple. It's the clues in the question in the title of the book, right? But time and time again, and you probably hear this as well, I'm scared my competition will see. I can't talk about price. I can't talk about this. I can't show this. My competition's going to see it. So what's your pushback or answer to that when we get this competition problem?
We are past the era of secrets. A great thought leader on this topic is Mark Schaefer, who in Marketing Rebellion has a whole section on this. The era of secrets is over. Let's say, Rob, you're afraid of sharing a secret. I'm afraid of sharing that same secret. So you and I decide not to publish. We're going to hold our secrets dear. Janet's going to publish it anyway. She probably already has. Pretend you're your audience and go look for that information. You're going to find it right away because other people are already publishing these things. And people like me, it's, once you realize this and you learn something new, I just wrote an AI prompt that audits web pages with beautiful clarity. I can't wait to make that live. I can't wait to share that with my audience because if I can beat them to the punch, I'm going to get more links, more followers, more shares, more visibility, and I'm going to have something that I can also use in conversations and send along. So no, it's literally it sounds like a cute little quip, but content marketing is a contest of generosity. It truly is. The people, the Marcuses of the world, the Ann Handleys, the Mark Schaefers, they won huge amounts of trust and audience and engagement because they knew that the first person to publish that insightful thing, would get the most visibility from it. The internet is a place where anyone has a chance to amplify anything. It's with a single click. So, you can have, if you want brand visibility and reach, then that is antithetical to the idea of holding something back. That's just not how the internet works.
Yeah, you can want something, but I'm not prepared to put how it needs to happen. So therefore it's not going to happen. And you mentioned Mark Schaefer. I also chatted to Mark on this.
Oh, good. Wow. These are all my heroes. You've talked to them all.
I know, it's great, right? Where he talked about community and how marketing is more of a collaborative effort these days. And I think there's something to be had in that. And I think if salespeople who have got their black book, their digital database, whatever it is, they can be such an influencer, a micro influencer on people who will one day become their customers, but they are not going to get that by just sharing a price list or a brochure of everything. It just won't work. And I think habits and discipline, Andy, for me are key. We talk about relevance coming over time, especially on social media, based on your audience profile, the content you post, and the timing that you post. We think from that you can build good relevance for a defined group of people. Do you ever hear that we tried content once, or we tried posting on social media once, and it didn't work? I told you it wouldn't work. Get back to the phones. We hear things similar to that very, very often because we're so keen as a more traditional business to prove something doesn't work because we don't want it to work. How soon would we see results in your experience, either from a disciplined approach at the top of funnel, so we are becoming more active, creating awareness, or plugging in deliberate pieces of content across a process to help us become more effective? A bit of a big question. Hopefully you can unpack that.
No, it's important because people who expect to get quick results from content marketing are often disappointed. Maybe their frame of reference is advertising, which is sometimes very fast. What we started with, I love, and we are, this is the Marcus Sheridan point. He's basically a sales guy, right? He's the sales lion going way back. That content is valuable now. And if you published it this week, you could get value from it next week by sharing it with the right people. So that is a categorically different type of content, sales enablement content, zero waste marketing. There is no need for the flywheel or for visibility or for search rankings or for social followings. A brand that started yesterday can get results from that content with no following and no search rankings at all. But the long game, and you mentioned the top of funnel, of course, there's a lot of competition for those phrases. It's more competitive than ever. There's a lot of competition for those topics, and it's more difficult than before to become an influencer on one of those topics because the internet just keeps getting, the internet is a crowded place. Your audience likely has some a lot of white space because these are, sleepy corners of the internet where where there isn't an Andy or a Rob yet, right? Drop me into that industrial lubricant category and I will dominate it within, a year. But it does probably take that long. A lot of people estimate a year and a half. And it makes sense because you have to build up your domain authority and links before you have a good chance in Google. You have to build up your following and community before you have a good chance in social. So these things are quite time consuming, but content marketing is durable. Everything you publish is still there. So content, slow but durable, advertising, fast but temporary. Advertising's fast, right? I could buy an ad and day after tomorrow, my ad will be visible and I'll get traffic from it. But the minute I stop paying, it disappears. Content marketing, there's got to, I'm going to build up a body of work. It's all kind of connected and internally linked, right? I'm writing for other websites and that's linking back to me. I'm building relationships with influencers who I can over time collaborate with the way we are doing right now, right? With collaborative formats, to Mark's point. So that all those things take time, building relationships, building links, building an email list, building your social followings. So it could be a year and a half. But when that flywheel is moving, I could win the lottery or get hit by a bus and my brand, my content, my website will generate leads for years with no money spent. Because we have all that built up, they call it your elbow, your lifetime body of work, your LBOW. We have a very big elbow that will feed many people for many years, even if we turned off the machine, because the results of content are quite durable.
And I always appreciate when people say it's not going to be quick, because I think there are gurus out there who suggest post this video, you'll get 10x traffic, this and this and this. And if you're not doing this, you're failing. It's not surprising that people stop, because your reference between advertising and content marketing, I think, is an excellent distinction. And I guess to put that in a more sales team focus, if they're hitting the phones, they're getting immediate feedback. Often it's going to be a no or I don't pick up, but we've done it and we can gauge it. I made 10 calls, I got through once. We can't see that as tangibly, as quickly.
That's right.
Content. So I guess it takes a decision ultimately, and discipline and permission, perhaps, from leadership. Is that what you see?
It takes an act of faith, basically. I think a lot of brands quit right before they're before they're ready to get traction. It's like, oh, we've been trying this for a year. It's like, keep going. You're learning, you're getting better, your audience better, your formats, you're building up, you've got some links for other websites. Another idea to speed it up is to just write for other websites. Is there a trade publication? Can anyone become a columnist there? Just write for other places. You're going to get much more visibility much faster. If I were starting from scratch today, I would say probably 2/3 of my content. First, I would publish 3 or 4 giant research pieces on my own site, like very detailed things with new original research, new statistics and data. Then I would go on a guest posting tour, digital PR, and write for everybody else I can find, and just build links to my site and put my content immediately in front of others. But no, it's an important point, and it's a huge difference. It takes patience, it takes faith, it's a long game. Again, advertising is fast but temporary. Content marketing is slow but durable. But we've highlighted some really important ways in which you could get results sooner, and how a sales team can get value from an article immediately. And another point, we haven't said it yet, Rob, but all those ways that you can get through now: cold calling, cold outreach, emails, advertising. There are more ways than ever to block those things. Nobody gets a call without, we all have caller ID or screen calls. We all have spam filters in email. We all have ad blockers. We all can fast forward ads on TV, or we're all seeing far fewer ads. Technology enables our buyers to block us. That's a huge part of what happened. But content marketing, they're looking for it. They're trying to find it. They're seeking it. You're the magnet. They're actually, they're deliberately forwarding it to their friends.
And if they happen to stumble on you and your behavior is that of just buy my stuff, it's oh, for God's sake, I wish I never found you in the first place. It's
noise. Now you're just noise.
Yeah,
they're
at best. Yeah, you're a nuisance. It's painful.
we're being hard on us. And it may be working. Let's admit it, right? Maybe they're getting results. We're being
Well, I
tough
mean, a
on the
lot of
cold
these
call.
organizations are very successful.
Sure.
What they have done got them to where they are, and I'm not in any way knocking that. But I think there is such a rapid change that the opportunity, I get so excited by the opportunity for these organizations
Mhm.
that they can run with it so far if they wanted to. But it's that decision to take it. And Andy, I just wanted to just finally, this buzzword that keeps, well, it's not a buzzword, it's a thing, and it's here to stay. And I don't know where it's going. I'd be keen around your perspective on it. AI. I'm seeing a lot of consultants, traders, businesses, sales teams almost absolve responsibility to AI. I'll create content, AI will do it for me. Is AI a threat, a friend, a foe? Broadly speaking, because no one probably knows. Where are we headed in the next 3 months, 6 months, 5 years, do you think?
Sure. Well, AI is most famous for its generative AI. We're talking about creating language. So people are always talking about how it can write stuff fast. I do not recommend using AI to write stuff fast because unless you train it carefully, which takes time, then it tastes like water. And I joke that AI stands for average information. It read the internet and it's going to write the average post for you, and it's going to be completely undifferentiated and include none of those elements I mentioned earlier. So I like to use AI for research. Just have it build a persona of your buyer and talk to it. Why wouldn't you buy from this? How much would you pay for this? Who else is involved in your decision-making process? What are your decision criteria for selecting an industrial lubricant partner? Whatever the case, AI is you can basically use it to create a persona and then run your sales scripts against it, ask it about topics, identify gaps. What are the most unusual, what counter narrative opinions are rarely covered by the big blogs related to industrial lubricants? It'll tell you, it'll help you with your content strategy. It'll help you do thought leadership. It'll help you differentiate. But when it comes to writing, write your own damn work. Like it's not good. The most famous use case, I think it's quite bad at because it's really, really undifferentiated. Maybe have it write an outline, but then go write your article. But use it for audience research. Bigger question. What happens in the future? Are people going to keep using Google, or are we just going to ask AI things? Again, if you want the AI to mention you when your prospect asks you about industrial lubricant partners, you need to have a big digital footprint. How do you train the AI to believe that your brand is one of the top brands for industrial lubricants? You have to have appeared in many places. AI crawled the internet. You need to write guest posts and be part of that trade publication and speak at that event and write 20 articles for 10 websites. That's when AI believes that your brand is worth mentioning for the question about who's the best X. If you want AI to mention your brand, you need to be active in content. You need to, as long as they've got a transcript, be on every podcast you can find, right? Something that the AI can crawl. We know that it reads YouTube transcripts. Put your best ideas and your strongest advice on YouTube. So in the future, the brands that do content today will have a massive advantage when user behavior shifts away from search and toward AI to find potential partners.
Yeah, it's an exciting and wary time, I think. I mean, as an example about how I'll use it, I've got this meeting recording now. I'll get the transcript. I'll then upload the transcript to chat, and I'll say, what are the key points that were discussed from this conversation? And it'll find out themes, and it's fascinating. But that transcript and input has come from a very deliberate space like this. It's not saying, as you say, go and find the average of the 10 best articles and create me a bland article. This was a conversation that happened. Tell me about it.
That's right.
Then we've got blogs, short posts, YouTube descriptions, videos, snippets. We've got 7 or 8 pieces of content straight away.
That's right. So my advice to anybody that wants their brand to be mentioned by AI in the future is to say yes to every opportunity to appear somewhere or share your advice or to write something or record something. But make sure that when you do that, you give a mini elevator pitch. Orbit Media Studios is an award-winning 55-person web design and development company in Chicago, Illinois that builds high-performing B2B lead generation sites for brands with high expectations. Whatever yours is, you need to say that. My words just now will be transcribed and crawled by an AI someday, and that makes yet one more instance on the internet of where AI saw that Orbit does this, and so you want to always, it's a little bit different because it's not like links for Google where you care about that site's domain authority. You just want there to be lots of mentions of your brand. At least that's what we believe. It's actually still unclear.
Yeah, and Andy, I mean, thank you for saying yes to being with us today. I think it's been a real fascinating chat, and I think just if you've got a very quick summary or a couple of takeaways for sales professionals that might be listening that are intrigued by this content idea, where might they start without feeling overwhelmed? What would you suggest?
Think about your audience, your prospect in their zero moment of truth. Why wouldn't they buy from you? What are their decision criteria? Maybe AI can help you discover what their information needs are. And start by publishing a small number of very detailed articles that demonstrate your expertise in disarmingly exhaustive ways. Use those as sales follow-up pieces. That is zero waste content. If you want to play the long game, yeah, they go on your website, of course, right? Don't send a PDF as an attachment. These things go on your website where you can get analytics on them. They can be shared when you get another visitor. If to be going past that, yes, create a content strategy, defining your topics, your formats, your audience, and your publishing frequency. And then turn that machine on and let it run, even at a low level, just one article a month, for example, or 6 a year, we said. Let that machine run over time and look for those clues, sometimes those indirect benefits. But the first brand in each category to do this, or the band to go the biggest in each category to do this, are brands that are going to have tons of visibility, lots of leads, free traffic, and in the future, your competitors are going to wonder how you did it.
Brilliant. Andy, I think that's a great summary. And thank you again for spending time with us this morning, your morning, my afternoon. I really appreciate that. And yeah, how can people see more about your work? How can they connect? Tell us where they can find you, and we'll leave you to your day.
LinkedIn is probably my best social network. By the way, you're the person they should talk to if they want content marketing, because Orbit does not do content marketing for clients. We build websites. So I love talking about it, but I don't want there to be any confusion about me being a partner for this. But I love to teach. LinkedIn. We have an active YouTube channel. If you look at Orbit Media Studios, and our website, of course, orbitmedia.com.
Brilliant. Andy, thank you so much. Pleasure to meet you. And yeah, take care, and we'll see you again soon.
Loads of fun. Thanks, Rob.
Take care.